The smell of antiseptic and bleach had become so familiar to Jasmine Washington that she barely noticed it anymore. 5 years working night shifts at Mount Sinai Hospital in Manhattan had trained her nose to ignore the sharp chemical scent that defined her world between 11 at night and 7 in the morning. She pushed her medication cart down the corridor of the intensive care unit, checking her watch. 3:15 in the morning, the darkest, loneliest part of the night shift, when the hospital felt like a ghost ship floating through darkness. Jasmine was 31 years old, bone-tired, and drowning in debt she couldn't see the bottom of. Her student loans from nursing school totaled $87,000. Her mother's medical bills from the cancer treatment that hadn't worked added another $43,000. The credit cards she'd maxed out trying to keep herself afloat while caring for her mother in those final months brought the total to over $150,000. She'd filed for bankruptcy 6 months ago after her mother died. But even bankruptcy had costs, legal fees, court fees, all the ways the system found to extract money from people who had none left to give. Last week, her landlord had given her 30 days' notice, the rent-controlled apartment in Washington Heights that she'd shared with her. Mother was being converted to luxury condos, even with her nursing salary. Jasmine couldn't afford anything else in the city. She'd been looking at rooms for rent in Jersey City, sharing apartments with strangers, trying to figure out how to make her life even smaller. The sound of raised voices pulled her from her thoughts. She hurried toward the private room at the end of the hall, the one that had been occupied 2 days ago by a John Doe brought in from a shooting in Little Italy. 3 men in expensive suits stood outside the room, arguing with Dr. Patel, the attending physician. "I don't care who you think you are," Dr. Patel was saying, his Indian accent sharp with authority. "This is a hospital, not a hotel. Your friend needs intensive care, and if you don't let us do our jobs, we have our own doctors," one of the men interrupted. He was tall, maybe 6'3", with slicked back hair and a scar running down his left cheek. "We're moving him tonight." "Move him and you'll kill him," Dr. Patel snapped. "He's suffered severe trauma to his optic nerves. He needs surgery within 48 hours, or the blindness will be permanent. He has internal bleeding that we're still trying to stabilize. If you remove him from this hospital, not your concern," Scarface said coldly. That's when Jasmine noticed the man standing behind them, silent and still he was older, maybe 60, wearing a suit that probably cost more than her car. His hair was white, perfectly groomed, and his eyes were the coldest thing Jasmine had ever seen. "Gentlemen," the older man said quietly, and all 3 men immediately fell silent. "Perhaps we should discuss this privately." His gaze swept past Dr. Patel and landed on Jasmine. She felt it like a physical touch, those cold eyes evaluating her, measuring her, cataloging her as either useful or irrelevant. "Nurse," he said, "what is your professional opinion of moving our associate tonight?" Jasmine knew she should keep her mouth shut. These men were obviously dangerous. This was clearly some kind of criminal situation. The smart thing would be to defer to Dr. Patel and disappear back to her medication cart, but her mother had raised her to speak truth, even when it was inconvenient. "He'll die," she said simply. "The bullet fragments near his spine need to be removed surgically. The swelling in his brain needs to be reduced before we can assess the full damage to his optic nerves. Moving him now would be like signing his death warrant." The older man studied her for a long moment. "And if he stays, what are his chances? With surgery? Maybe 70% chance of survival. The blindness," she hesitated. "Dr. Chen, our best ophthalmologist, says there's a 30% chance we can restore some vision, but we need time." "Time is a luxury we don't have," Scarface muttered. "Then he dies," Jasmine said, meeting his eyes without flinching. "Your choice." The older man made a sound that might have been a laugh. "What's your name, nurse?" "Jasmine Washington." "Well, Miss Washington, you're either very brave or very foolish. In my world, those qualities are often indistinguishable." He turned to the other men. "We stay 48 hours, but I want our own security on this floor. No one goes in or out of that room without clearance from Salvatore." He gestured to Scarface, who nodded grimly. "And Miss Washington," the older man added, "you'll be his primary nurse. No one else touches him, understood?" "It wasn't a request, understood," Jasmine said, though she had no idea what she'd just agreed to. The patient's name, she learned from the heavily redacted chart, was listed only as V. Marchetti. No first name, no address, no insurance information, just a note that all bills would be paid in cash. When Jasmine entered the room for the first time, she found him awake. Despite the pain medication that should have kept him unconscious, his eyes were bandaged, his head wrapped in gauze, but his jaw was clenched with what looked like fury. "Who's there?" His voice was rough, damaged probably from being intubated. "During emergency surgery, my name is Jasmine, I'm your nurse." "I didn't ask for a nurse, I asked for everyone to get the hell out." "Well, that's not happening, so you can either let me do my job, or you can die of an infection while being stubborn. Your choice." Silence then, surprisingly, what might have been a laugh. They said you were brave or foolish. I'm starting to think both. Jasmine approached the bed, checking his IV lines. I'm neither. I'm just someone who's too tired to be scared. You should be scared. Do you know who I am? V. Marchetti, that's all your chart says. My name is Vincenzo Marchetti. I'm the head of the Marchetti crime family. We control everything from the docks in Red Hook to the construction contracts in Jersey. I've killed men for less than looking at me the wrong way. Jasmine adjusted his morphine drip. That's nice. Can you rate your pain on a scale of 1 to 10? Another sound that might have been a laugh, cut short by what was clearly agony. You don't believe me? Oh, I believe you. I just don't care. In this hospital, you're not a crime boss. You're a patient with critical injuries who needs to follow doctor's orders if he wants to live. And if I don't want to live? The question was so raw, so unexpectedly vulnerable, that Jasmine paused. She looked at this man, wrapped in bandages, lying in darkness, both literal and metaphorical. Then that's your choice too, she said quietly, but not on my watch. For the next 48 hours. You're going to live whether you like it or not. After that, you can make whatever decisions you want. I can't see, he said suddenly. They told me I might never see again. Dr. Chen is the best ophthalmologist on the East Coast. If anyone can restore your vision, it's her, but you have to give her the chance. A blind godfather, Vincenzo said bitterly. Do you know what that means in my world? It means weakness. It means I'm finished. Then maybe, Jasmine said, it's time to find a new world. Over the next 2 days, Jasmine spent more time in Vincenzo's room than anywhere else in the hospital. The armed guards outside his door, the obvious criminal connection, the cash payments, all of it should have terrified her, but somehow it didn't. Maybe because she had nothing left to lose, or maybe because beneath the crime boss bravado, she recognized something familiar in Vincenzo Marchetti, the sound of someone who'd lost everything and was trying to figure out how to keep breathing. She talked to him while changing his bandages, telling him about the world outside his window that he couldn't see, the way the sunrise painted the East River gold, the hot dog vendor on the corner who sang opera while he worked, the pigeon that had made a nest on the window ledge of the break room. Why are you doing this? He asked on the second night. The other nurses, they come in, do their job, and leave as fast as possible. You talk to me like I'm human, aren't you? Not for a long time. Jasmine sat down in the chair beside his bed. It was 3 in the morning again, that lonely hour when truth came easier. My mother died 6 months ago, she said. Cancer. It was brutal and slow, and it ate her alive from the inside. At the end, she couldn't see either. The tumors had spread to her brain. But I sat with her every day and told her about the world, because being blind is hard enough. Being blind and alone is unbearable. I'm sorry, Vincenzo said, and he sounded like he meant it. Me too. She was a good woman, better than I'll ever be. She worked 3 jobs to put me through nursing school, never complained, never asked for anything back, just loved me and believed in me even when I didn't believe in myself. She'd be proud of you. I hope so. Most days I feel like I'm failing her, drowning in debt, about to be evicted, wondering if all her sacrifice was for nothing. She hadn't meant to say all that, but something about the darkness, about talking to someone who couldn't see her face, made the words spill out. How much? Vincenzo asked. What? How much? Do you owe? Jasmine laughed bitterly. More than I'll make in 5 years. Why? Because, Vincenzo said slowly, I might have a solution to both our problems. The surgery happened on the 3rd day. Dr. Chen spent 7 hours working on Vincenzo's eyes, while Jasmine waited in the surgical waiting room with the men in expensive suits. The older man from the first night, whose name she'd learned was Antonio Marchetti, Vincenzo's uncle, sat across from her reading a newspaper like they were waiting for a bus, instead of finding out if the head of their crime family would ever see again. You care about him, Antonio said suddenly, not looking up from his paper. I care about all my patients. No, this is different. I've seen hundreds of nurses in my time. You look at my nephew like he's a person, not a problem to be managed. Jasmine didn't know how to respond to that. He's going to ask you something, Antonio continued, something that will seem insane, and you're going to want to say no because you're a smart woman and smart women don't get involved with men like us. Then why are you telling me this? Antonio finally looked up, and his eyes were sad in a way that spoke of decades of regret. Because Vincenzo has been dead inside for 15 years, going through the motions, building power, eliminating enemies, but never really living. You're the first person I've seen him actually talk to in all that time, the first person who made him remember what it feels like to be human. I'm just his nurse. You're more than that, and you know it. Dr. Chen emerged from surgery at 6:45 in the evening. She pulled down her mask, and Jasmine could read the news in her face before she spoke. The surgery went as well as could be expected. We removed the fragments, reduced the swelling, but the damage to the optic nerves was severe. I won't know the full extent until the bandages come off in 2 weeks, but I'd prepare for the possibility of permanent blindness. Antonio nodded once, his face revealing nothing. Can we see him? He's in recovery. Give him an hour, then Miss Washington can sit with him if she'd like. When Jasmine entered the recovery room, Vincenzo was awake, his head still wrapped in bandages that covered his eyes. "Jasmine," he said, "is that you?" "It's me. How are you feeling?" "Like someone drilled into my skull," which they did. He tried to smile, but it came out as more of a grimace. "Dr. Chen told me I'm probably going to be blind forever." "Probably isn't definitely." "Close enough." He reached out with his hand, and Jasmine took it without thinking. "I need to ask you something, and I need you to hear me out before you think I'm completely insane." "Okay, marry me." Jasmine blinked. "What? I know how it sounds. We met 3 days ago. You're my nurse. I'm a criminal. This is the most ridiculous thing you've ever heard. But listen to why." He squeezed her hand, and Jasmine realized he was genuinely nervous. "In my world, weakness is death. A blind godfather is a dead godfather. The moment the other families find out I can't see, they'll move against me. Civil war in the streets. Hundreds of people will die, most of them innocent. How does marrying me help with that? Because you become my eyes, my wife, my partner, my connection to the world, with you beside me. I'm not helpless. I'm a man with a devoted wife who happens to be a medical professional. It changes the narrative from weakness to unconventional strength. That's insane, I know. But here's what I can offer you. I pay off all your debts, every single one, your student loans, your mother's medical bills, your credit cards, gone. I set you up in a penthouse apartment in Manhattan. No rent, yours for as long as you want it. I pay you a salary of $200,000 a year. Jasmine's head was spinning. For how long? 1 year. We stay married for 1 year. You help me navigate this new reality, help me maintain my position long enough to stabilize the family and arrange proper succession. After 1 year, we get a quiet divorce. You walk away with everything I promised and you're free. This is crazy. Yes, but is it any crazier than working yourself to death for the next 20 years trying to dig out of debt? Is it crazier than being evicted and starting over in some shared apartment in Jersey? He had a point, and Jasmine hated that he had a point. Hey, if you're invested in Jasmine's impossible decision, could you take a second and hit that like button? It really helps stories like this reach people who need them and stay with us, because what happens next will change both their lives forever. Why me? Jasmine asked. You could hire anyone. Why a random nurse you met 3 days ago? Because you're the only person who's treated me like a human being instead of a weapon or a bank account. Because you're honest. Because you don't want anything from me except for me to survive. That's rare in my world, Jasmine. That's precious. I need time to think. I understand. But I need an answer before I leave this hospital. Once I'm out there, the clock starts ticking. The other families are already circling, wondering why I haven't shown my face. Every day I'm silent is a day they grow bolder. Jasmine spent the next 12 hours in a fog. She went through her shift on autopilot, her mind spinning with the impossible decision. It was fraud. Technically a sham marriage if anyone found out. She could lose her nursing license, but then again, who would find out? And even if they did, would it matter if she was debt-free and could start over somewhere new? She thought about her mother, about what she would say. Her mother had been a woman of faith, had believed in doing the right thing no matter the cost, but her mother had also been practical. She'd worked 3 jobs because sometimes survival required compromise. At 6 in the morning, Jasmine walked back into Vincenzo's room. He was sitting up in bed, his bandaged eyes turned toward the window he couldn't see. "Yes," she said. "Yes, yes, I'll marry you for 1 year. But I have conditions and name them. I keep working as a nurse. I'm not going to be some housewife sitting around your penthouse. I need purpose." "Agreed. You don't lie to me about anything. I need to know what I'm getting into." "Agreed. And you treat me with respect. I'm not one of your soldiers to be ordered around. We're partners in this, or we're nothing." Vincenzo smiled, and it was the first genuine smile she'd seen from him. "Partners, I like that." They were married 3 days later in a private ceremony at the penthouse. Antonio served as witness. A priest who clearly knew better than to ask questions performed the ceremony. Jasmine wore a simple, white dress that one of Vincenzo's people had bought for her. Vincenzo wore a black suit and dark glasses to hide his bandaged eyes. "I, Vincenzo Marchetti, take you, Jasmine Washington, to be my lawfully wedded wife," he said, his voice steady and formal. "I, Jasmine Washington, take you, Vincenzo Marchetti, to be my lawfully wedded husband," she replied, feeling like she was in a dream she couldn't wake up from when the priest pronounced them married. Vincenzo leaned forward carefully, and Jasmine met him halfway. Their kiss was brief, formal, witnessed by hard men in expensive suits who looked like they were attending a funeral instead of a wedding. Maybe they were. The penthouse was on the 60th floor of a building in Midtown. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered views of Central Park and the Manhattan skyline. The furniture was modern and expensive, all sharp lines and leather. It looked like something from a magazine, beautiful and completely impersonal. "Welcome home," Vincenzo said as they entered. He moved carefully, one hand trailing along the wall, counting steps he'd memorized. "How long have you lived here?" Jasmine asked. 15 years. I could navigate it blindfolded before, now I have to." She watched him move through the space. This man who'd been powerful and feared, now reduced to counting steps and feeling for furniture. There was something both heartbreaking and admirable about his determination not to appear helpless. "Vincenzo," she said, "you don't have to pretend with me. I know you can't see." He stopped, his shoulders tense. "Everyone calls me Mr. Marchetti, or Sir, or Don Marchetti. No one calls me Vincenzo except Antonio. What should I call you? My wife should probably use my first name." "Then tell me, Vincenzo, where's the bedroom? Because I've been awake for 36 hours and I'm about to fall down." He laughed, actually laughed, and pointed down a hallway. "Master suite is the second door on the left. I'll take the guest room. This is your home, and you're my wife. You get the master suite. Besides, it has better light in the mornings, not that I can see it anymore, but you should at least get something nice out of this arrangement." Jasmine walked down the hallway and opened the door to the master suite. It was enormous, bigger than her entire apartment in Washington Heights. The bed was king-sized with what looked like Egyptian cotton sheets. The attached bathroom had a soaking tub and a shower with 6 different shower heads. She sat down on the bed and started crying. Not sad tears exactly, just overwhelmed tears. 3 days ago, she'd been a nurse drowning in debt and facing eviction. Now she was married to a mafia boss in a penthouse that probably cost more than she'd make in 10 lifetimes. There was a soft knock on the door. "Jasmine, are you okay?" She wiped her eyes. "I'm fine, just processing. It's a lot, I know. If you want to leave, I'll understand. I'll still pay your debts, set you up somewhere. You don't have to go through with this." And that's when Jasmine realized something important. This man, this supposedly cold and ruthless godfather, was giving her an out. Even though he needed her, even though his life might depend on this arrangement, he was giving her the choice to walk away. "I'm not leaving," she said. "We made a deal, partners, remember?" "Partners," he agreed. Over the next 2 weeks, they fell into a routine. Jasmine continued working her shifts at the hospital, though she cut back to 3 days a week. The other 4 days, she spent helping Vincenzo navigate his new reality. She learned that he'd been preparing for a major meeting with the 5 families, the heads of New York's biggest crime organizations. They met once a year to discuss territories, resolve disputes, and maintain peace. Vincenzo's shooting had happened 2 weeks before this meeting, and now there was pressure for him to either attend or officially step down. "If I don't go, they'll see it as weakness," Vincenzo explained. They were sitting in his study, Jasmine reading through reports while Vincenzo listened to audio recordings his people had made. "But if I go and they see I'm blind, then we make sure they don't see it as weakness," Jasmine said. "We make it look like you're choosing to have me there as your partner, not because you need me." "And how do we do that?" "By being honest about it. You introduce me as your wife, and your eyes. You make it clear that this is a choice, not a limitation, that you trust me enough to be your connection to the world, and that trust is a strength, not a weakness." Vincenzo was quiet for a long moment. "You're smarter than half my advisors." "I'm also cheaper," he laughed. He was laughing more these days. Jasmine noticed the cold, bitter edge was softening into something more human. The bandages came off on a Tuesday morning. Dr. Chen unwrapped them carefully while Jasmine held Vincenzo's hand. Antonio stood in the corner, his face carefully neutral. "All right," Dr. Chen said. "I'm going to turn on the light slowly. Tell me if you see anything. Any light, any shadows, anything at all." She clicked on a pen light and moved it in front of Vincenzo's eyes. "Anything?" she asked. Vincenzo's jaw was clenched. "Nothing, it's just black." Dr. Chen tried different lights, different angles. She brought in specialized equipment, ran more tests. After 2 hours, she gave her final eye diagnosis. "The damage is permanent. I'm sorry, Mr. Marchetti, you're legally blind. There may be some slight improvement over time, maybe the ability to detect very bright light, but you'll never have functional vision again." After she left, Antonio approached Vincenzo. "This changes nothing. You're still the head of this family. Anyone who says otherwise will answer to me." "Antonio, you're 63 years old. How long can you enforce my will when everyone can see I'm helpless? You're not helpless, you have Jasmine. Both men looked at her and Jasmine felt the weight of that gaze. She was 31 years old, a nurse from Washington Heights, and somehow she'd become essential to the survival of a crime family. The meeting is in 3 days, Vincenzo said. We need to be ready. Those 3 days were intense. Jasmine learned the names and faces of every major player in the New York underworld. She studied their histories, their territories, their feuds and alliances. Vincenzo taught her how to read body language, how to spot lies, how to identify threats. In that world, he told her, everyone is performing. Everyone has an agenda. Your job is to be my eyes, yes, but also my lie detector. You watch their faces, their hands, their posture. You tell me what they're not saying. You're asking me to be a spy. I'm asking you to be my partner. The morning of the meeting, Jasmine put on a dress that Antonio's people had selected. It was black, elegant, expensive. She looked in the mirror and barely recognized herself. Vincenzo emerged from his room wearing a perfectly tailored black suit. Dark glasses hid his sightless eyes. He moved with practiced confidence, years of muscle memory letting him navigate without appearing to fumble. How do I look? He asked. Like a godfather, Jasmine said. Honestly. And you? Like someone pretending to be something she's not. Vincenzo crossed the room, his steps sure and steady. He reached out and Jasmine took his hand, guiding it to her face. His fingers traced her features gently, her cheekbones, her jaw, her lips. It was the first time he'd really seen her since losing his sight. You're beautiful, he said softly. I knew that from your voice, from the way people look at you when you walk in a room, but feeling your face. You're extraordinary, Jasmine. Something shifted between them in that moment. This wasn't just a business arrangement anymore. It was becoming something real. The meeting was held in a private room at a restaurant in Brooklyn. The 5 families were already seated when Vincenzo and Jasmine arrived. Antonio walked ahead of them, making the introductions. Gentlemen, Don Marchetti and his wife, Mrs. Marchetti. Jasmine could feel the weight of their stares. These were dangerous men who'd built their power on violence and intimidation, and they were all evaluating this newcomer, this black woman on the arm of a man they'd heard was blind. Vincenzo moved to his seat with Jasmine at his side. She described the room to him in whispers, giving him the layout, the positions of each don, the exits and entrances. Vincenzo, one of the dons said. His name was Carmine Russo, head of the Russo family. We heard about your incident. I'm glad to see you recovered. Recovered enough, Vincenzo said smoothly, though I'll admit my perspective has changed. I can see that, another don said, and there was cruel amusement in his voice. Nice glasses. They're necessary, Vincenzo said without shame. The shooting left me blind, but it also taught me something valuable about trust and partnership. He reached over and took Jasmine's hand. My wife has become my eyes, and in doing so, she's become something more valuable than any soldier or advisor I've ever had. She sees the world without the filters of our business, without the prejudices of our culture. She tells me the truth, always, because she has no reason to lie. You're telling us you're blind? Carmine asked incredulously. I'm telling you, I've found a new way to see, and that this partnership has made me more effective, not less. Jasmine watched the dons carefully, reading their reactions like Vincenzo had taught her. She saw surprise, skepticism, calculation, and in Carmine Russo's face, she saw something else, respect. That takes courage, Carmine said finally. To admit weakness and turn it into strength, your father would be proud. The meeting proceeded from there, discussions of territory and business that Jasmine translated into whispers for Vincenzo. She described body language, facial expressions, the small tells that revealed what each don was really thinking. When disagreements arose, Vincenzo navigated them with a skill that had nothing to do with sight. He knew these men, knew their motivations, knew exactly what to say to maintain the fragile peace. By the end of the meeting, something remarkable had happened. The other dons weren't looking at Vincenzo with pity or contempt. They were looking at him with the same respect they'd always had. Maybe more, because he'd shown them something they'd never seen before, vulnerability and strength existing in the same space. In the car ride home, Vincenzo was quiet. Jasmine sat beside him, watching the city lights flash past the window. You were amazing, she said finally. We were amazing, he corrected. I couldn't have done that without you. Is it always going to be like that? Walking into rooms full of dangerous men and pretending I'm not terrified. You were terrified. The entire time. I couldn't tell. You sounded calm, confident. You described everything I needed to know without hesitation. I'm a good actress. No, Vincenzo said. You're a good partner. Back at the penthouse, they stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows, Jasmine describing the view to Vincenzo. The lights of the city spread out below them like stars fallen to earth. What does it look like? He asked. Really, not just the practical description. How does it make you feel? Jasmine thought about it. It looks like possibility, like millions of lives happening all at once, each one a story, each one mattering. It's beautiful and overwhelming and lonely all at the same time. I miss seeing it, Vincenzo said softly. I miss a lot of things about seeing, but you know what I don't miss? The way I looked at the world before. Everything was business, territory, threat assessment. I never really saw beauty. I never really saw people. He turned toward her, his dark glasses reflecting the city lights. But now I have to really listen, really pay attention, and I'm discovering things I never noticed before, like the way your voice changes when you're nervous, or how you hum while you're reading, or the fact that you're left-handed and you always tap your fingers 3 times when you're thinking. You notice all that? I notice everything about you. Something in his voice made Jasmine's heart race. This was supposed to be a business arrangement, a 1-year deal, but somewhere between the hospital and the penthouse, between the wedding and the meeting, it had become something more. Vincenzo, she said carefully, what are we doing here? Really? I don't know, he admitted. I thought I did. I thought this was a simple transaction, but every day I find myself wanting to know more about you. Not because you're useful, but because you're you. This wasn't part of the deal. No, it wasn't. And if you want to keep it purely business, I'll respect that. But I need you to know, Jasmine, you're not just my eyes, you're not just my wife on paper. You're becoming someone I care about, someone I trust, He stopped, seeming to struggle with the words. Someone you what? Someone I'm starting to love. Jasmine should have been shocked, should have pulled back, reminded him of the boundaries they'd agreed to. But instead, she reached up and gently removed his dark glasses. His eyes were open but unfocused, looking at nothing. They were brown, she saw for the first time, deep brown with flecks of gold. I'm starting to love you too, she whispered, and I don't know what to do about it. Neither do I, but maybe we figure it out together. She kissed him then, there by the window overlooking the city he couldn't see. And for the first time since this impossible situation began, Jasmine felt like she was exactly where she was supposed to be. 6 months into their arrangement, everything changed. Jasmine came home from a shift at the hospital to find the penthouse in chaos. Armed men were everywhere. Antonio was shouting into a phone, and Vincenzo was sitting on the couch, his face pale. What happened? She demanded. War, Antonio said grimly. The Calabrese family hit 3 of our locations tonight. 6 of our people dead. They're making a move, trying to take our territory while they think Vincenzo is weak. What do? We fight back, Antonio said. Hit them twice as hard, show them that the Marchetti family isn't weak. No, Vincenzo said quietly. Everyone turned to look at him. No? Antonio repeated. Vincenzo, if we don't respond with force... I said no. Vincenzo stood up, and despite his blindness, he commanded the room. This is exactly what they want. To draw us into a war, to make us look desperate and violent. We're not going to give them that. Then what are we going to do? One of the soldiers asked. Vincenzo turned toward Jasmine. We're going to do something they won't expect. We're going to negotiate. You can't negotiate with the Calabrese family, Antonio protested. They only understand strength. Then we'll show them strength, just not the kind they're expecting, Jasmine. I need you to arrange a meeting. Just me and Don Calabrese. No soldiers, no weapons, just 2 men talking. That's suicide, Antonio said, or it's exactly the move that changes everything. Trust me. The meeting happened 3 days later in a neutral location, a church in Queens, Donny. Calabrese arrived with his soldiers, but left them outside when he saw that Vincenzo had come alone with only Jasmine. You've got guts. I'll give you that, Calabrese said. He was in his 70s, old school, with white hair and cold eyes, coming here blind and defenseless. I'm not defenseless. I have something better than guns, Vincenzo gestured to Jasmine. I have perspective. Your wife, what's she going to do? Nurse me to death? She's going to tell you the truth about what this war will cost both of us, Jasmine. Jasmine pulled out the folder she'd spent 2 days preparing. In the last decade, 6 different territories in New York have gone to war. On average, these conflicts last 18 months. They result in 73 deaths on average, 87 arrests, and a 32% drop in revenue for both families involved. She walked over and placed photos on the table between them. These are the people who died in the last territory war, soldiers, yes, but also civilians. A waitress caught in crossfire, a kid playing basketball who was in the wrong place, an old man whose store got firebombed. Don Calabrese looked at the photos, his face carefully neutral. My husband didn't bring me here to threaten you, Jasmine continued. He brought me to ask a simple question. Is this really what you want? Is another year and a half of blood and loss and federal attention really worth whatever you think you're going to gain? He's weak, Calabrese said, pointing at Vincenzo. He's blind. Everyone knows it. His territory is up for grabs. He's adapted, Jasmine corrected. He's found a new way to lead, a way that actually makes him see clearer than before. He doesn't miss the small details anymore. He doesn't get distracted by ego or pride. He just sees the truth. And what truth is that? That you're 73 years old, Vincenzo said quietly, that you have 6 grandchildren you want to watch grow up, that you're tired of the violence, but you don't know how to stop without looking weak. So you keep pushing, keep fighting, because that's what you've always done. Calabresi's face went very still. I'm offering you a way out, Vincenzo continued. A way to maintain your respect while ending this before it escalates. We split the disputed territory down the middle. We agree to a non-aggression pact for 5 years, and we work together to keep the feds out of both our businesses. Why would you do that? Why offer me anything? Because I'm tired too. Tired of the killing, tired of looking over my shoulder. I lost my sight, Don Calabresi, and in that darkness, I finally saw what really matters. It's not territory or money or power. It's time. Time with people you love. Time to actually live instead of just survive. The old Don looked at Vincenzo for a long moment. Then he looked at Jasmine. You really love him, don't you? This isn't some act. I love him, Jasmine said simply. And he's giving you the chance to spend more time with the people you love. Take it. Don Calabresi stood up slowly. He walked to the window of the church, looking out at his soldiers waiting outside. Then he turned back. Split the territory, 5-year pact, but if you break it, I'll kill you myself, blind or not. Agreed, Vincenzo said. After Calabresi left, Jasmine sat down heavily in one of the pews. Did that really just work? You were incredible, Vincenzo said, feeling his way to sit beside her. The way you presented the data, the way you talked to him like a human being instead of an enemy, that was all you. We did it together. Partners, Vincenzo agreed. They sat in silence for a moment, the only sound the distant traffic outside. Vincenzo, Jasmine said finally, our year is almost up. I know. I've been thinking about the divorce, about walking away like we agreed. She felt him tense beside her. And I don't want to. This started as a transaction, but it became something real. You became someone real to me, someone I can't imagine my life without. Vincenzo reached for her hand, his movements no longer hesitant. He knew exactly where to find her now. I was going to ask you to stay, he said. I was terrified you'd say no, that you'd take the money and disappear and I'd go back to being alone in the dark. I'm not going anywhere, but I need to know this is real for you too, not just convenient, not just useful. Real. Jasmine. He turned toward her, his sightless eyes aimed at where he knew her face must be. You saved my life. Twice. Once in that hospital when you refused to let me die, and once when you agreed to be my wife and showed me that being blind didn't mean I couldn't see. He pulled something from his pocket, a small box. I know we're already married, but this was a business arrangement. I want to ask you properly, as a man who loves you, as someone who wants to spend the rest of his life with you, not because he needs you, but because he chooses you. He opened the box, revealing a ring. Jasmine gasped. It was beautiful, a simple diamond on a platinum band. Jasmine Washington, will you marry me? Really marry me? Not a contract or a deal, but a real marriage, a partnership of equals, a life together, whatever that looks like. Tears were streaming down Jasmine's face. Yes, yes, I'll marry you for real this time. He slipped the ring on her finger, and she guided his hand to show him it was there. I can't see. Hit, he said, but I don't need to. I can feel that it's right. 2 years later, Jasmine Marchetti stood in the nursery of their penthouse, looking down at their daughter. Lucia was 3 months old, with Jasmine's complexion and Vincenzo's brown eyes. Vincenzo stood beside her, his hand resting on her shoulder. He couldn't see his daughter, but he'd felt every feature, memorized every sound she made. He sang to her in Italian, old songs his grandmother had taught him. What's she doing right now? He asked. She's sleeping. She has her fist in her mouth and she's making this little snoring sound that's absolutely ridiculous. Describe her to me. Really describe her. Jasmine smiled. She has 10 perfect tiny fingers and 10 perfect tiny toes. Her hair is black and curly, standing up in every direction. When she opens her eyes, they're this incredible brown that changes in the light. She has your nose and my cheekbones and the most beautiful smile I've ever seen. She's perfect. She is. Vincenzo had stepped back from the day-to-day operations of the family business. Antonio ran things now, with Vincenzo serving as an advisor. They'd gone legitimate. Mostly real estate, restaurants, import-export businesses that didn't involve drugs or violence. It turned out that a blind former godfather who could see the truth better than anyone else made an excellent consultant. Companies paid him to analyze their operations, to spot the problems everyone else missed, and Jasmine still worked as a nurse, 2 days a week now. She'd started a foundation that provided medical care to people who couldn't afford it, funded by the Marchetti family fortune that she'd once been terrified to be associated with. Do you ever miss it? Jasmine asked. Seeing? Vincenzo thought about it. Sometimes I miss seeing your face, I miss seeing Lucia, but I don't miss the way I saw the world before. I was blind then in ways that mattered more. And now I see everything that matters. I see you in the way your voice changes when you're happy. I see Lucia in the way she grips my finger and the sound she makes. I see the world through touch and sound and feeling. It's different, but it's real. He pulled Jasmine close, kissing the top of her head. Everyone thought, you'd suffer. Married to a cold, blind godfather, but you didn't suffer. You thrived. We both did. Because you weren't cold. You were just waiting for someone to see you. Really see you. And you did. You saw past the monster everyone thought I was and found the man I could become. Lucia made a small sound in her sleep, and they both turned their attention to her. What are we going to tell her? Jasmine asked. When she's older, about how we met, about what you used to do. The truth, Vincenzo said, that I made mistakes, that I hurt people, that I lived in darkness before I found the light, but also that people can change, that it's never too late to choose a better path, that love and grace can transform even the coldest heart. That's a heavy burden for a little girl. Maybe, but she'll have us to help her carry it, and she'll know that no matter what mistakes she makes, no matter how lost she gets, she can always find her way home, because home isn't a place. It's the people who love you even when you can't see the way forward. Jasmine leaned against her husband, their daughter sleeping peacefully in her crib, the lights of Manhattan glowing beyond their window. Everyone had thought she'd suffer, but instead she'd found something she never expected. She'd found love that saw past appearances. She'd found partnership that valued truth over power. She'd found a family built not on blood or tradition, but on choice, and most importantly, she'd discovered that sometimes the most unlikely beginning leads to the most beautiful ending. The cold, blind Italian Don and the nurse who became his eyes, the business arrangement that became a love story, the darkness that led to light, and the impossible marriage that somehow became the realest thing either of them had ever known. The end. If this story moved you, please like, subscribe, and share it. Drop a comment. Do you believe love can grow from the most unlikely circumstances? Can people really change, or do we just become better versions of who we always were? I'd love to hear your thoughts. This is a story about seeing what really matters even in darkness, about partnership that transforms both people involved, about grace that heals wounds we thought were permanent. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. See you in the next story.